on the library board and became treasurer of that board. That was my first assignment here in Weston, working with Jane. I was on Planning and Zoning Commission for 2.5 years and served as vice chairman. I've been on the Board of Finance for the past 3 years and have been very much involved in the budget cycle, as we'll hear. And most importantly, from a very personal perspective, I was chairman of the Select Committee on Town-to-Town Partnership, which was the project that Weston undertook with the town of Lacombe, Louisiana. We're living in very, very challenging times, and this is where I really feel that my experience can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to request the candidates to remain seated in answering the rest of the questions, just to save time. What I just passed to them was a document that relates to this first question. In the first quarter of the current fiscal year, there have been more than $1.22 million in supplemental appropriations. See list, and the list is what they just got. Do these appropriations belong in the budget where they can be debated by Weston taxpayers? I will say for the edification of the audience that what we're talking about is $68,000 plus for the Kids in Crisis Counselor, $544 to C&H Electric for the lawsuit settlement, $92,000 plus prepayment on the fire truck, $9,000 plus for CL&P meter study, and almost $7,000 for photovoltaic panels for the office. So we're asking the candidates to respond. Do these appropriations belong in the budget where they can be debated? And the question will go to Mr. Muller first.
And it's 2 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay. This is actually a very good, easy question for me to answer, and that I've been involved with all of these expenditures on the Board of Finance. The question is $1.22 million in supplemental appropriations, half of which, or almost half of which, $544,000 is a lawsuit settlement. It is very hard to budget legal expenses or settlement of litigation. So I think that the easy answer right there is you can't put that in a budget. What you can put is a contingency for legal expenses. But the town is sued and is involved in litigation throughout the year. There is no way to budget for that. If I look at the other items on here, a fire truck, a meter study regarding the fuel cell, solar panels, things come up during the year that you cannot plan for in the budget cycle. We're starting the budget now for a town meeting approval in April of next year. We then have to look forward from this date, or when the budget is put together, 14, 18 months. There is absolutely no way any town, being a responsible fiscal partner, can budget for every expense which is going to come up. The only one in here which I would address as being different from that is the issue with Kids in Crisis Counselor. And there was a there was a significant level of discussion between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance about that counselor. And the reason it wasn't put in the budget specifically was because we felt that as a town we could get more from that individual or from that service. And therefore, until we were comfortable that we were able to expand the counselor's offering of services out of the high school and into the middle school, we did not feel that it was appropriate to put in the budget at that time. There is one other issue. The Board of Finance is limited by statute in the percent of expenditures that it can make without a town meeting approval. And all of these items are within the range of discussion that is permitted by town statute and by state statute. So therefore, while you don't like to see things coming up during the year, there is absolutely no way that you can foresee absolutely every expense that the town is going to incur. Thank you.
Gilbert.
Oh, thank you. Supplemental appropriations are a challenge in any town government, in any organization. They should be kept to an absolute minimum, and only emergency items should be addressed. So when I scan through this list, the only thing that I can see that couldn't be pushed off into a future year would be maybe Kids in Crisis. If, in fact, we needed a counselor to help teens, then we should make that expenditure. But if I were the first selectman, everything that came to me as a supplemental appropriation that wasn't absolutely critical would be pushed off. If, as a town, we truly believe that the most significant issue we have to deal with is the increase in property taxes, we need to deal with that issue. And we need to deal with it on an annual basis in the budget process. There is no easy way to be fiscally responsible. We see irresponsibility in Washington. We see it in Hartford. It isn't party specific. It's like water running through your fingers. Not here, not now. If this town actually wants budgets that are responsible and that are as close to zero as possible, and the town does, then supplemental appropriations, unless they're crisis, get moved into the process next year.
All right. Ms. Weinstein.
I agree with David Muller 100%. There are so many items that are just unforeseeable that you need to take care of for a supplemental appropriation. What I'd like to talk about is the savings that we have managed to accrue by paying for these up front. Kids in crisis. We did not put it in the budget. Quite frankly, I was not comfortable at budget time with the agreement that we had with Kids in Crisis at that time. To spend $68,000 to have one crisis counselor, in the high school for 4 days a week, even though I felt it was important to have, financially I just couldn't do it. I work closely with Michael Ferguson and with the Board of Ed to make sure that now for the exact same amount of money, we have a crisis counselor that's covering middle school, high school, their families, and working with the elementary schools to create programs so that kids won't become in crisis at a later time. To me, that is absolutely important. Regarding the fire truck, we made that prepayment because we're saving thousands and thousands of dollars by prepaying. This is a truck that we paid for half out of our budget last year, and the other half was supposed to come out of next year. So this is something that we have already approved. We need to think outside of the box and think of ways that we can save money. So by us prepaying for that fire truck and saving those thousands of dollars, absolutely worth it. The same thing with the fuel cell. We are working on grant deadlines here, and anyone who has worked with the state or the federal government on grants, such as I've been doing, know that those grants are pulled at any time. We've already seen the dollar amounts that we're getting for the kilowatts going down, and we need to ensure that we do everything possible to make sure that the grant money that's coming to put this fuel cell in at no cost to us other than the $20,000 outlay at the beginning works. The same thing with the photovoltaic panels. We're paying just half. We're getting the other half free from a grant. So to pass that opportunity up, especially when we're getting 3 photovoltaic cells for free to begin with and not utilize that to go in with this would have been a waste of time and money. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lerner?
First of all, I think I have 2 sons, and I just don't think I ever need to be mic'd because I'm screaming constantly. I think we're talking more about fiscal discipline than fiscal responsibility. And I really like to use the word discipline because keeping supplemental appropriations, unless it's an emergency, out of a budget requires an incredible amount of discipline. It's hard. You make hard choices based on what you really need versus what you want versus what the town is willing to approve. So I absolutely believe the town needs to have a voice in these things. I don't believe that supplemental appropriations in the amount of $1.22 million is appropriate. I think there's got to be a better way to manage that. I am sure that some of these may have been urgent. We all may have different opinions on which one. I'm personally predisposed to the meter combination because I'm a big fan of that type of savings, reducing our costs through green energies. It's not that much money. I do know emergencies come up, but you cannot keep piling supplemental appropriations into the middle of a budget season.
Okay. Does anybody want to use the rebuttal? All right. This is your one chance.
I actually would like to use the rebuttal, but to address a different question. I feel it's incumbent upon me to deal with some of the inaccuracies in the answer on the mortgage-backed securities. We are talking about a mortgage market that approaches $8.9 trillion. There is $33 trillion of debt outstanding in the United States. This is the largest market, bigger than the government bond market. We are looking at 80% exposure to what are called pass-through securities, which are AAA rated and have what's called a waterfall of cash flows, which allow all of the underlying mortgage payments in the security to channel up to pay the AAA tranche first. Unlike the statement which was made, we are not buying funds, we are buying bonds. Those are very, very different instruments that are selected by a manager, not a fund which is somewhat amorphous.
That's time,
Thank
I'm
you.
afraid. Okay, but thank you. All right, that's it for the afternoon. All right, the next